Libras, welcome to your weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast. This is for November 21st to the 27th of 2016. I'm Athen, and this channel is about using the actual constellations in the sky, known as Sidereal Astrology. If you are new to the channel, be sure to check out the link down below because the signs are different, which means your sign might be different, and you'll want to watch this for the right sign. All right, so Libra, this week we have a lot of things shifting and some changes as it has been in November. Very pivotal month in which things are transforming. So looking at this first, at the beginning of the week, we will be in the third quarter phase, which does emphasize this time for us to challenge ourselves. You know, it's a really good time during the third quarter to take some steps. And it might be some steps that we had some awareness about last week, earlier in the week around Monday when we had the full moon. Maybe there was some insight, maybe some ideas, some awareness that now we can be implementing the beginning of this week. So very good there for taking steps and challenging ourselves. Now, the very first thing this week is that the sun is going to be shifting into your second house here on Monday. So there's this shift of focus. And the shift of focus is going into your value sector, okay, the second house. This is the house of your resources. So this is your inner resources, such as your self-worth, your self-reliance, but also your external resources such as finances and those material assets. So a great place to focus your energy here with this area, with the sun, gaining prana when you're focused on pursuing your values, attaining your values. And when it comes to the internal side of things, really focusing on what your natural gifts and natural abilities are. And it's through that you are gaining that sense of self-worth, that self-reliance, and yes, you can go and pursue those values of yours with moderation. You know, Saturn has been in here, so it has been very important for you to take this disciplined approach to all this. And I think that's going to be emphasized because midweek, Mercury is going to conjoin up to Saturn in that second house, which does suggest a new beginning with the whole value sector, which can be very positive, but it does take time to unfold. You know, Saturn does pay off where there is hard work, but it's not immediate. Okay, it's the long-term enjoyments, the long-term gains versus the short-term gains, right? And so I think if you approach it in that fashion of where you can put in a bit of hard work or a bit of patience when it comes to these values in life, I think that's an excellent way of working with this week. Now, around that same time, Mercury is going to be sextiling Jupiter, so there is a lighter side to all this, at least an opening of some sort of gateway, if you will, into this area. So very good there, again, to cultivate it. But this is Jupiter in your 12th house, helping you see the importance of really detaching and letting go, right? And maybe if that is value related, the importance of surrender, faith, trust, that everything does come to you in time. But again, this is a little bit of both, taking the action, which is more of, again, the patient action, but at the same time, loosening up, letting go of everything outside of your immediate control. And in that way, there's a flow to it, and it can allow these things to come in, allow these changes to happen. And it's just all in all a really good time, I think, for things like meditation, getting some rest and relaxation, working behind the scenes, things like that with Jupiter in your 12th. You may even feel maybe a bit open-minded about a lot of this stuff, in fact, this early part of the week, which is good. You may even have some insights regarding those values as well. All right, so that's the first half of the week, essentially. And I do want to mention that with Mercury conjoining Saturn, there is this new beginning also, not only with the value sector, but also with your belief systems and how important it is to have open belief systems, but at the same time to take those potentials and turn them into something real. Okay, so it all goes back to Saturn about patience and all this, but it could be about your belief systems. It could be about possibilities just generally in your life path. And then also, again, maybe some spiritual discipline of where you can maybe have a bit more peace and tranquility in your life, which does come through that spiritual process, you know, of either spiritual activities or understanding more about yourself psychologically, facing fears and accepting them. And all this can actually be quite easy, in fact, with Jupiter in the 12th, at least relatively speaking, because, you know, the 12th house is not an easy house to work with, you know, facing fears to have spiritual liberation and to release our attachments to things. But Jupiter in here can certainly lift that up and help you see the upside and potentials with all that transformational stuff. All right, so that's the first half. The most important aspect this week is that Jupiter from the 12th is going to be squaring up to Pluto. So there is some changes, I think, needing to take place here with your mind, with your perspective this week, and again, with where you can detach, surrender, and let go. And it may, again, come across as easy because it is Jupiter, but there's something deep here that really needs to change. And I think a lot of it does have to do with your perspective, because you do have Pluto in your third house, which is of the practical mind. So that your practical mind is changing, your perspective is changing. And as you dive deep with that, and as you dive deep with your spiritual self, your beingness, and again, it could be psychological, could be spiritual, however that is for you personally, making those changes is really the emphasis of this week. And it may be uncomfortable because it is a square, but usually we know what needs to change or what we need to do. Again, squares are about action, taking steps, what we might need to do in order to have, in this case, yes, more spiritual liberation, more peace in our life, as well as a greater understanding of what's possible and changing those belief systems and perspectives. Okay. It may even have to do also with your work and routine. I do want to mention that could be a part of it. Jupiter does rule your sixth. So if you're feeling like making some changes in that department, I think that's also something to strongly consider. All right. So that's that square this week. And then right after that, Venus then goes over Pluto with the square, which does suggest that not only are your ideas and again your perspective changing, but you're changing this week. This is your ruler Venus. This happens about once every year. And so it's this time of, again, seeing where there's fears, seeing where there's traumas, seeing where there's inhibitions that are preventing you from making the change you want to see in your life. And it's about being aware of them, but it's also about accepting those fears. And then once we accept them, they no longer have power over us. And then we're able to make the change that we want to see in our life. All right. And it's not happening subconsciously. We're much more conscious about it. And it can be very revolutionary, very transformative. All right. So that's that conjunction. It's also involving the 8th house. So again, yes, emphasizing maybe there are some attachments, some patterns, some deep things, or some bonds that are unhealthy perhaps in your life that you can transform and change, which will then free you up. And I think you'll notice that going into the weekend after that transformation. It'll take time, of course, but you'll notice that, I think, refreshing feeling. Now, there's probably some healing involved with this. Mercury is going to be squaring up to Chiron going into the weekend, so that's very natural, very normal with all this. The more willing you are to heal, to accept any wounds that you might have, I think you're going to notice that as a positive force. And I think that's going to be particularly relating to the value sector. Again, the sense of self-worth or the self-reliance there. Okay. And could be very liberating. In fact, something new and different. Mercury does trine Uranus going into the weekend. So mixing it up, maybe some innovative ideas. And it might be coming through the work sector. It's been very important for you to have more freedom in your daily routine. And so it's a great weekend for that. It's a great weekend for those values. Again, seeing where you can maybe think outside the box, try something new, maybe with those belief systems, maybe with those spiritual activities. But could be freeing in that sense. But I think with Venus in your third house, this is really the focal point, along with the values really getting highlighted. But the focal point here is just so good to be open-minded in terms of learning in life. This is the third house. Again, practical. Could have to do with reading, writing, if it's something specific, connecting with your peers. Maybe some of you are doing some trading or exchanging in your life. So these types of matters, I think, is just so good to be open to change with, to transform. And like I said, as a result, you're transforming this week. All right, so Libra, that's the week in a nutshell. Again, strong emphasis on the second. Values, certainly great source of energy, great place to take that slow and steady approach. Things transforming with you and your belief systems, and your mind is changing, which is good, helping you, I think, see things in terms of how you can learn along the life journey. Mars is down at the bottom of the chart, so your motivation levels might be a bit on the low side still, but just know a great area to channel that Mars is maybe into your sentiments, home, family, maybe your health. These can be good sources of motivation if you're wanting to pursue those things, and I think it's just great. All these opportunities here to get in touch with yourself spiritually, right? So you can have more peace and tranquility in your life, which has been Jupiter and will continue to be Jupiter in your 12th house for about a year, year and a half. Actually, for about a year from now. All right, so Libras, have a fantastic week. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.